He walked into that cafe like any other man, but no one knew the truth. The stranger in the gray hoodie owned half the city. And when he ordered a simple cup of coffee, he never imagined 3 words from a black waitress would stop his entire world. It all started on a cold, rainy morning. The streets of downtown Chicago glistened with silver puddles, the kind that reflected neon lights and broken dreams. A man in a cheap gray hoodie crossed the street, his sneakers splashing through the rain. No limo, no bodyguards, no cameras, just him. His name was Ethan Bell, billionaire, investor, CEO of one of America's largest luxury coffee chains. But today, none of that mattered. He wasn't Ethan the billionaire. He was just Ethan, tired, lonely, and desperate to feel real life again. He pushed open the door to a small, half-forgotten cafe on the corner, Marley's Cafe. The bell above the door jingled weakly, announcing his arrival. Inside, the place smelled like roasted beans, cinnamon, and old wood. It wasn't fancy. The wallpaper peeled, the chairs creaked, and the coffee machine hissed like it was on its last breath. And yet, there was something warm about it. Behind the counter stood a young black woman, her dark curls tucked under a worn cafe cap. Her name tag said Amara. She looked up, smiled, the kind of smile that didn't ask who you were or what you could buy. Just a smile that said, "Welcome." Ethan cleared his throat, pretending to study the menu even though it only had 6 options. Black coffee, large. Amara nodded. "Coming right up, sir." Her voice was soft but strong, the kind of tone that carried kindness even on bad days. Ethan watched her move behind the counter, efficient but graceful. She wiped the counter, poured the coffee, and glanced toward the back of the cafe where a small child sat at a table, drawing with crayons. "Mama, look," the little girl shouted. "I made you a flower." Amara smiled. "That's beautiful, Maya. Just 1 second, okay?" Ethan's eyes softened. Mama. So, she was a single mom, working hard, raising her daughter, and still managing to smile at strangers. Something about that hit him deep. Amara handed him the cup. "That'll be $3.50. He pulled out a 5 and placed it on the counter. "Keep the change." She shook her head immediately. "No, sir. I'll give you your $1.50 back. You earned that." That made Ethan pause. "You're refusing a tip?" Amara smiled. "I don't refuse kindness. I just think everyone deserves their fair share, even rich folks in hoodies." Ethan froze for half a second. Did she recognize me? No, impossible. He'd covered his tracks. No driver, no designer watch, no hint of wealth. But the way she said it, calm, teasing, made him wonder if she saw more than he let on. He took the change quietly and sat at the corner table, sipping the hot, bitter coffee. It wasn't the best cup he'd ever had, but it was the first one in years that felt earned. He watched her as she moved from table to table, helping customers, laughing with her daughter, picking up dishes others left behind. Every motion told a story of resilience, of struggle, of someone who didn't have much but gave her best anyway. And Ethan couldn't stop watching. A few minutes later, 2 men in expensive suits entered the cafe. They looked out of place, like wolves in a henhouse. Ethan instantly recognized them, business competitors from the city. He sank lower in his seat, hoping they wouldn't notice him. "Coffee," one of them barked. "Black. And hurry up, this place smells weird." Amara's face didn't flinch. She smiled politely. "Right away, sir." As she handed them their cups, one of the men sneered. "You ever think about doing something better with your life? Like working for someone who can actually pay you?" Her eyes met his, calm, unbroken. "I'm doing something better already. I'm raising a good person, and she's sitting right there." The men rolled their eyes, laughed, and left without paying. Ethan's jaw tightened, but before he could step in, Amara quietly cleaned their table and went back to serving others. No anger, no bitterness. Just grace. The cafe emptied out slowly, leaving only Ethan, Amara, and little Maya. The girl came up to the counter holding her drawing. "Mama, can we go home now?" "Almost, baby," Amara said, tying her apron tighter. "Let me close up first." Ethan stood, placing his empty cup on the counter. "You make good coffee," he said. She smiled again. "Thank you, stranger. Most people say it's too strong." "I like strong," he replied. "It feels real." As he turned to leave, Amara called out. 3 simple words that hit him like thunder. "See you tomorrow?" Ethan froze. His hand stopped on the door handle. No one ever said that to him. Not his assistants, not his business partners, not even the people he dated. Everyone in his world said, "See you later," or "Let's schedule a meeting." But "see you tomorrow?" That was different. That meant she actually wanted him to come back. He turned around slowly. Amara was smiling softly, wiping a cup with a towel, her daughter waving from the table. He didn't even realize he was smiling back until he said it. "Yeah," he murmured. "See you tomorrow." When he stepped outside, the rain had stopped. The clouds had cleared. But inside him, something had just begun. The next morning, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about her. 3 simple words had lodged themselves in his mind like a hook he couldn't pull free. "See you tomorrow?" He hadn't wanted to admit it, but he had already planned to return. Not for the coffee, he drank better at his own private café, but for her. He arrived at Marley's Cafe 20 minutes before it opened, hoping to get a sense of the place before the morning rush. The streets were quieter now, the rain from yesterday leaving a reflective shimmer on the asphalt. Ethan pulled his hoodie tighter, feeling strangely nervous. He had no idea why. He had closed billion-dollar deals, spoken to presidents, faced boardroom battles, but the thought of facing a waitress made his chest tighten. When he pushed open the door, Amara was already there, wiping down the counters, her apron tied neatly, and her daughter Maya perched on a stool coloring in her notebook. The little girl looked up, smiled, and waved enthusiastically. "Good morning," Maya called. Amara glanced up, a hint of surprise in her eyes. "Oh, good morning. You're early." Ethan smiled awkwardly. "Yeah, I like my coffee before chaos hits. I mean," he stopped, realizing how ridiculous he sounded. He wasn't used to small talk, especially with someone who mattered. She chuckled, shaking her head. "Well, good to see you again. Coffee?" He nodded. "Yes, black, strong, like yesterday." Amara prepared his coffee carefully, humming softly as she worked. Ethan watched every motion, every glance she gave Maya, and something inside him loosened. He felt almost normal, like he belonged somewhere beyond boardrooms and luxury towers. As she handed him the cup, their fingers brushed again, and Ethan felt a spark, small, fleeting, but undeniable. "Busy day ahead?" he asked, trying to sound casual. She shrugged. "It's always busy, but you learn to handle it. And Maya keeps me moving, too." He nodded, feeling a pang of admiration. He had never met someone who could juggle so much responsibility with so much grace. "You make it look easy," he said. Amara smiled faintly. "Easy doesn't pay the bills. You get used to the struggle." Her honesty hit him harder than any corporate presentation ever had. She wasn't pretending. She wasn't flattering him. She was real. The morning passed slowly. Ethan sipped his coffee while observing the small world of Marley's Cafe. The regulars arrived. An old man with a cane who read the paper, a young couple arguing quietly over something trivial, and a college student buried in a laptop. Amara greeted each with warmth and patience, making everyone feel like they mattered. Ethan felt like an intruder at first, but something about her presence made him stay. And then it happened, something that would change everything. A commotion at the door drew his attention. A man stumbled inside, soaked and shivering. Amara rushed over. "Are you okay?" she asked. The man looked up, his eyes darting nervously. I lost my wallet. I don't even have money for a coffee." Without hesitation, Amara smiled. "It's okay. Sit down. You'll have coffee on me." Ethan watched silently. Most people in his world would have rolled their eyes, handed over a credit card, or ignored the man entirely. But Amara? She treated him with dignity. She didn't judge. She didn't pity. She simply helped. Something inside Ethan stirred. He felt an unfamiliar urge to act. He reached into his pocket, intending to offer a tip or a small gift, but then stopped. He didn't want her to know who he really was, not yet. The man thanked her profusely, and she waved him off, already moving back to the counter to serve the next customer. Ethan realized he had never seen anyone work with such kindness and efficiency simultaneously. By the time the morning rush ended, Ethan had spoken to her a handful of times. Small exchanges, polite questions, nothing revealing. And yet, the more he listened, the more he felt drawn into her world. There was something magnetic about her, a force he hadn't encountered in years of wealth and power. When she took a short break, she sat across from him for the first time. Maya was coloring at a nearby table, humming a tune. Ethan hesitated before speaking. I wanted to say thank you," he said, "for yesterday, and for letting me come back." Amara tilted her head. You're welcome. You don't have to keep coming back, you know. I know, he replied, his voice soft. But I want to. I like seeing this place. Seeing you. Her eyebrows raised slightly, surprise flickering across her face. You like seeing me? He nodded. Yes. Yes. I like seeing you, and Maya, too. You run a beautiful cafe. It's different from anything I've experienced. She looked at him carefully, as if trying to read behind his words. You're very polite for someone who's just a stranger, she said, smiling faintly. Ethan laughed nervously. I'm not just a stranger. I'll explain later. And in that moment, he realized he wanted to. He wanted to tell her everything. Who he really was, what he had, and why he was here. But he also feared her reaction. People in his world loved him for his money, not his heart. He wanted her to like him for the opposite. As he finished his coffee, Amara leaned down slightly to Maya. Time to clean up and get ready for school, baby. Maya groaned, but she obeyed. Amara turned back to Ethan, brushing a loose curl from her face. Well, thank you for stopping by again. I hope you enjoy your day. Ethan smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with coffee. I already have, he said. He walked out into the streets again, but unlike yesterday, the sun was peeking through clouds. It wasn't just light outside. He felt a new light inside himself. A part of him that had been buried under wealth, stress, and ambition was awakening. And deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. Over the next few days, Ethan returned to Marley's cafe with surprising regularity. He was careful. The gray hoodie, worn sneakers, and an old baseball cap disguised him enough to avoid recognition. But he found that he didn't care anymore. The simple truth was that the cafe had become his refuge, a place where wealth and power didn't matter. He was just Ethan, and for the first time in years, that felt good. Amara noticed him, of course. Her instincts were sharp, and there was something about him that seemed familiar, a confidence that didn't match his modest appearance. But she didn't question it directly. She treated him like she treated every other customer, politely, kindly, and without prejudice. Maya, on the other hand, immediately adored him. Every day, she would show him new drawings, proudly asking, "Do you like it, mister?" Ethan always smiled and praised her work. The little girl's laughter echoed in his chest like a melody he hadn't realized he missed. One afternoon, as Ethan sipped his coffee and scrolled through his phone discreetly, a thought struck him. He wanted to help Amara, not in a flashy, billionaire way that would embarrass her, but in a real, meaningful way. He had wealth and influence, and for the first time, he wanted to use it without ego. But he hesitated. How could he help her without revealing who he was? How could he give without breaking the fragile trust he had begun to build? Amara approached his table, a towel draped over her shoulder. "You're looking thoughtful," she said. Ethan chuckled nervously. "Just thinking about work. Business stuff." She raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. "You don't look like a businessman. You look like someone who's staring at the universe, trying to figure it out." He froze for a moment, caught off guard by her perceptiveness. "Maybe I am," he admitted softly. "Maybe I am." She smiled faintly and moved on to help a customer at the next table, leaving Ethan to his thoughts. He realized then that honesty, Amara's honesty, was something he hadn't encountered in a long time, and he wanted to match it. The next day, Ethan decided to test the waters. He left a small envelope on her counter before she arrived. Inside was a handwritten note. "For emergencies or when life feels too heavy. Use it wisely." From a friend. When Amara arrived, she noticed the envelope immediately. Her brow furrowed as she read the note, glancing around the cafe in confusion. She picked up the envelope carefully, then sighed, shaking her head. "Who leaves money like this?" she muttered to herself. "It feels strange." She decided to set it aside, unsure if she should even open it in front of Maya. But curiosity got the better of her, and she peeked inside. Her eyes widened slightly. It wasn't just money. It was enough to cover a month of rent, groceries, and a small emergency fund. Amara felt a rush of conflicting emotions. Who could be so generous without asking for anything in return? She looked around the cafe, seeing only Ethan sipping his coffee quietly in the corner. But he was just a stranger, wasn't he? The next day, she approached him cautiously. "About the envelope. I don't know who you are, but thank you. I don't even know how to repay you." Ethan smiled faintly, shrugging. "No repayment needed. I just wanted to help." Amara studied him closely, suspicion mixed with gratitude. "You're not just a regular customer, are you?" He shook his head. "No, just someone who cares, I guess." Her expression softened, but she didn't push further. Instead, she returned to her work, leaving Ethan with a strange mix of satisfaction and nervousness. Days turned into weeks, and their small connection grew stronger. Ethan began to notice the little things. How Amara laughed when Maya drew something ridiculous, how she always found time to greet the regulars, and how her strength and determination radiated quietly but powerfully. He started helping in small ways, buying supplies anonymously, paying for repairs, leaving notes of encouragement. Each act deepened his attachment, but also increased his anxiety. He wanted her to like him for him, not for the money. Then came the day that changed everything. The cafe was busier than usual, filled with the morning crowd and the smell of fresh pastries. Amara was moving from table to table, keeping up with orders while checking on Maya. Ethan noticed a man at the door staring at her, someone aggressive, impatient, and clearly not here for coffee. "Excuse me," the man barked, approaching the counter. "I need to see the manager." Amara stepped forward calmly. "I'm the owner's assistant. Can I help you?" The man sneered. "No, I'm here to collect a debt. Your landlord says you're behind on rent." Amara's face tightened slightly, but she didn't panic. Ethan watched her carefully. She was brave, resourceful, but clearly worried. The man's tone was threatening. She tried to explain, but he ignored her words. Ethan felt a surge of protectiveness he hadn't expected. Without thinking, he stood and approached the man. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. The man turned, sizing him up. "And who are you?" "Someone who doesn't like seeing people treated unfairly," Ethan replied. Amara's eyes widened slightly. She had no idea who he really was, but she could feel the authority in his presence. The man hesitated, clearly intimidated by Ethan's confidence, though he didn't know why. "Leave now, before things get ugly," Ethan said. The man scowled, muttered under his breath, and stormed out of the cafe. Amara turned to Ethan, awe and curiosity mixed in her gaze. "Who are you?" she asked quietly. Ethan smiled, but didn't answer. "Just someone who cares," he said again, leaving her more puzzled than ever. As she watched him walk to the door, Ethan realized something profound. He was falling for her, not because of her beauty or kindness alone, but because she had reminded him what it meant to live a life that mattered, to connect, to care, and to fight for what was right. And for the first time, he wondered if he could ever reveal the truth without losing everything. The days passed, and Marley's Cafe had become more than just a morning stop for Ethan. It was a refuge, a place where his heart felt lighter and his mind quieter. But with every visit, the risk of revealing his true identity grew. It wasn't just curiosity that Amara was showing now. There was a subtle awareness in her eyes, a sense that he wasn't entirely who he appeared to be. One morning, Ethan arrived a little earlier than usual, the sun barely cutting through the misty clouds. Amara was already bustling around the cafe, putting pastries into the display case and checking the schedule. Maya was at the counter, carefully placing sugar packets into a small cup, pretending it was a treasure chest. The sight made Ethan smile. He had forgotten how small joys could feel monumental. "Morning," he said softly, trying to appear casual. Amara glanced up, her eyebrows slightly raised. "Morning again. You're here a lot these days," she said, almost teasing, but there was a flicker of something in her tone, suspicion or curiosity, he wasn't sure. "I like the coffee," he said, shrugging. "And the company." Her eyes softened slightly, but she tilted her head. "The company, huh? You're awfully mysterious for someone who says they like company." Ethan chuckled nervously, avoiding her gaze. "I guess I like keeping things simple." She studied him for a moment, and then something about her expression changed. Her intuition, honed by years of life's challenges, told her there was more to this man than a gray hoodie and black coffee. Something powerful, something real. Just then, a group of construction workers came in, laughing loudly and ordering breakfast in a chaotic flurry. Amara moved with calm efficiency, taking orders, serving food, and ensuring everything ran smoothly. Ethan watched her, heart swelling with admiration. Her strength was quiet but unshakable, and it pulled at something deep inside him. After the rush subsided, Amara returned to her station, wiping down the counter. She glanced at Ethan. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure," he said, a little wary. You seem different from everyone else who comes here, she began carefully. You're polite, generous, and you don't act like someone who owns a fortune. But there's something about you. Something I can't place. Ethan froze. Her words hit him harder than any boardroom negotiation ever had. He wanted to tell her the truth, to lift the veil, to share everything he had been hiding. But he also feared losing her trust. If she knew he was a billionaire, would she still see the person, or just the money? I'm not who I seem, he admitted carefully, his eyes meeting hers. But I'm trying to just be me. Amara studied him, eyes narrowing slightly, searching for honesty. You're scared to tell me the truth, aren't you? Ethan nodded slowly. I am. I want you to like me for who I am, not what I have. But it's complicated. Her expression softened, but there was a hint of caution. Complicated can get people hurt, she said. He took a deep breath, realizing that his feelings were no longer something he could keep hidden. He wanted to trust her, to let her in. And yet, he hesitated, terrified that the truth could destroy everything that had begun to grow between them. Just then, Maya ran up with a drawing in her tiny hands. Mama, look. I drew a rainbow. Amara smiled, taking the paper and examining it. Ethan noticed the tenderness in her eyes, the way she radiated warmth and care despite the weight of her responsibilities. It struck him again. She was extraordinary, a light in a world that had long felt dark to him. I want to help you, Ethan said quietly, almost to himself. Not like before. Not just money or gifts. I mean, really help. If you let me. Amara glanced at him, curious but cautious. And how would you do that? Ethan hesitated. I don't know yet, but I want to make your life easier. I want you to have time to breathe, to dream, for you and Maya. Her expression softened, a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. You're a kind person, she said. I've learned to be careful. People usually have an angle. You seem different. Ethan smiled faintly, though a pang of worry tugged at him. Could he really prove that? Could he show her that he was different without revealing his fortune too soon? The next few days were filled with subtle gestures. Ethan began paying anonymously for small café repairs, leaving envelopes with helpful notes, sending flowers to brighten the place when it seemed gloomy. Amara noticed, puzzled but quietly thankful. She never questioned the source, only appreciated the kindness. But tension began to build. Her instincts told her there was more to him, and his reluctance to reveal the truth only made her more curious. One afternoon, a customer accidentally mentioned seeing someone who looked exactly like Ethan entering the city's most exclusive hotel, a man with the same build and face. Amara's heart skipped. Could it be? Could the man who had shown her kindness and warmth actually be? When Ethan arrived that day, Amara's curiosity reached a tipping point. I have to ask, she said carefully, leaning on the counter. Are you who I think you are? Ethan froze. His heart pounded. He could feel the moment stretching, fragile and tense. One wrong word could shatter the trust they had built over weeks. But he also knew that keeping the secret much longer would be impossible. I am, he admitted quietly, his eyes searching hers. But I'm still me. The same person you've seen here. I'm not coming to impress you with money or power. I'm coming because I care. Amara's eyes widened, a swirl of emotions crossing her face. Shock, disbelief, awe, and something else, curiosity tinged with hope. Ethan held her gaze, silently pleading that she see the truth in his eyes, that despite the fortune, despite the life he led outside these walls, his heart was here, in Marley's cafe, with her and Maya. And in that moment, the air between them was charged with unspoken possibilities, the beginning of a story that neither money nor fear could define. The next morning, Marley's cafe felt different. Ethan arrived as usual, but the air seemed heavier with anticipation. He hadn't slept much, thinking about the conversation from yesterday. The truth was out, and now there was no turning back. He had revealed his identity: billionaire, CEO, someone the world would treat differently. But in Amara's eyes, he had to see whether he was still the same man she had come to trust. Amara was already there, prepping the cafe. Maya ran to greet him, her little arms stretching out. "Mr. Ethan," she shouted, and he scooped her up, hugging her tight. The warmth of the gesture reminded him why he had come here every day, for moments like this, untainted by money or status. Amara approached slowly, watching the interaction with a mixture of caution and curiosity. "Morning," she said softly, her eyes locking onto his. "Morning," Ethan replied, setting Maya down gently. "How are you?" She shrugged, her expression unreadable. "I'm fine. Coffee." He smiled faintly. "Please." As she prepared his drink, the tension between them was palpable. Amara moved carefully, but there was a flicker of vulnerability in her gaze, the uncertainty of someone who had just realized that the man she had come to trust might live in a world she barely understood. When she handed him the cup, their fingers brushed lightly. Ethan's pulse quickened. This small, ordinary gesture felt monumental, charged with weeks of unspoken emotions, small acts of kindness, and shared glances. "I need to ask you something," Amara said finally, her voice steady but quiet. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? You could have been honest from the start." Ethan sighed, leaning on the counter. "I was scared. I didn't want you to like me because of what I have. I wanted you to like me because of who I am. Not my money, not my status, nothing like that." Amara looked down, processing his words. I appreciate that. Truly. But it's a lot to take in. A billionaire, right here in front of me, pretending to be someone else." He nodded. "I know. And I'm sorry. I wanted to show you the real me first, before anything else." She studied him, her eyes softening. "The real you, the one I met first, in this cafe, without the money or the power, that's who I like. That's the person I trust." Ethan's chest tightened. Her words were exactly what he had hoped to hear. For the first time, he felt like the barriers he had built around himself were crumbling. Just then, Maya ran over, tugging at Amara's hand. "Mama, can we have pancakes today?" Amara laughed, kneeling to her daughter's level. "Sure, baby. Ethan's treat." Ethan chuckled. "Absolutely." The small moment felt like a lifeline, normal, real, and entirely unconnected to his empire. He realized then that this was the life he had been missing. Genuine connections, laughter, warmth, and trust without expectation. Over the next few weeks, Ethan became more involved in the cafe, not in a flashy way, but in a quiet, meaningful manner. He helped with repairs, introduced supply contacts, and even started mentoring Amara on ways to expand her business without compromising her values. But the key difference was that he did it without revealing his wealth to manipulate or impress, instead offering genuine guidance and support. Amara noticed the changes but kept her boundaries. She didn't let the money or influence sway her. She was cautious but curious, slowly realizing that Ethan's presence wasn't about wealth. It was about care, respect, and a willingness to be human in a world that often wasn't. One rainy afternoon, much like the first time Ethan had walked into the cafe, the three of them were cleaning up after a busy day. Maya was scribbling in her notebook, Amara was wiping the counters, and Ethan was organizing some deliveries. "Mama," Maya called out suddenly, "I drew a picture of us. You, me, and Mr. Ethan." Amara smiled, looking at Ethan. "See? You're part of the family now, whether you like it or not." Ethan laughed, feeling a warmth he hadn't known in years. "I like it," he said. "And I like being here, with both of you." Amara looked at him, her expression soft but serious. "You've proven something important, Ethan. That it's not the money that defines a person. It's kindness, honesty, and the way they make others feel. You have that. And I trust you." Ethan felt a rush of relief and joy. In that moment, all the fear of revealing his secret evaporated. He had found something far more valuable than wealth, a connection that could never be bought. Later that evening, as the cafe closed and the streets glistened with rain once again, Ethan stepped outside with Amara and Maya. The city lights reflected off the wet asphalt, casting a soft glow around them. He looked at the two most important people in his life now and realized that for the first time in decades, he was exactly where he was meant to be. "Thank you," he said quietly, glancing at Amara. "For trusting me, for letting me in, for everything." Amara smiled, a warmth in her eyes that spoke louder than any words. "You earned it, Ethan. You've shown me who you really are. That's worth more than anything money could buy." Maya tugged at his sleeve. "Can we get ice cream tomorrow?" Ethan laughed, scooping her up in his arms. "Absolutely. Ice cream it is." And as they walked down the quiet, rainy streets together, Ethan understood the truth. Wealth, power, and status could never replace the simple, human connections that made life meaningful. In Amara and Maya, He had found a world worth protecting, a home he hadn't known he needed, and a love that was real, untainted, honest, and forever. For Ethan Bell, the billionaire who had once disguised himself to hide from life, the greatest fortune was not in his bank account. It was in the laughter, trust, and love of the two people who had changed everything. And in that quiet city corner, under the soft glow of street lights and the remnants of rain, a new chapter began, one filled with hope, trust, and a life finally lived with heart. If you enjoyed this incredible story of a disguised billionaire, a kind-hearted waitress, and the life-changing power of honesty and trust, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps us bring more amazing stories to you. And make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that will touch your heart and inspire your day.